I'm really looking forward to this next one. I hope that a lot of people get inspiration whenever they're building their own products to steal some of the ideas of our next speaker. I think the world would be a lot better place if we do that. So I'm going to keep it very, very short. Ladies and gentlemen, she's part of Fairphone. Please welcome her up on stage, TESSA WERNINK.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. Honored to be here. Thanks. You can hear me well, huh? I was changing around a bit. Yes. So tech, I can see that we were in this session because of the social entrepreneurship, and it's really nice to see all these very motivated women on stage, I have to say. And I'd like to start telling you a little bit about Fairphone. I saw a couple here just before I went on stage, so I think there's some general knowledge about what we do. But before I get to this, the product, I'd really like to start with how we started Fairphone. And then I really like to start actually with this slide. This slide for me is really a starting point where if we look at when this sign first came up, you can say it's about 10 years ago, the Occupy movement, frustration, inability to change something, really looking at, who's to blame, where to start. For me, it's a sign that really came together with the idea that the system is broken. So if you look at how do you start if the system is broken, nobody knows. But what we decided is we were going to start with Fairphone. Now, why Fairphone? I am going to invite you to all take out your phone, and you probably actually have it in your hand. But look at it and see if you can find somewhere where you can open it. Is there a screw in your phone that you can open? Is there somewhere that you can get inside? When's the last time that you actually saw your battery? Who can access their battery? 3, 4 people. Well, that's where it is. We could have started with an arbitrary product, actually, complex products, because most products have supply chains that look like this. They connect you to the entire world. And with a phone, that's literally the case, because you can call anybody on the planet, but you have no idea where it comes from. And, that makes it complicated, but it also actually makes it a really powerful symbol of what our economic system is like at the moment. Because in the words of Milton Friedman, our market economy was based on that invisible hand, which is great because it got products to your door. But actually, what we've realized is that invisible hand is just not good enough anymore. We want to know where our stuff comes from, who made it, what were the conditions around making it. So what we did is we started to unravel this product and say, okay, let's use this phone to start understanding that system behind our products. And we started in 2010, going to the Congo. Now, just a very brief, huge, beautiful country, incredibly rich in resources, but absolutely ravaged by war at the time and all the atrocities combined with that. And these are miners that spend days underground. And instead of that being an option for them to get out of this situation, a lot of the proceeds are actually fueling a war economy. So you might have heard of blood diamonds. Well, this is termed conflict minerals. And these minerals go from these places and they go directly to smelters and to manufacturers, which in a sense directly connects you to these places in the world. Now, if you go further, like I was saying, these minerals, they go into components, they go through various supply chains. Like I said, there are thousands, and they end up in going through factory to factory to factory, and I think there's been more and more awareness around what the situation in these factories are, that the wages are low, the days are long, and there's not really an option for people to get out of this rut. And that's because of our drive for electronics. And after they go from the factories, we use them 1, 2 years, maybe, max. Put them in a drawer, give them to your daughter, your friend, and if you're part of the 5% who recycles them, They go to second-hand markets where they're refurbished, which is great because they get a second life. But they also often end up in e-waste, electronic waste piles. And that wouldn't be so bad if these minerals were going back into the system, but they're often in countries where these materials cannot be recycled, and that, or at least not officially, and they get burned. And that has a lot of health and safety issues combined with that. So what I heard Rubin saying is that this is what I heard, it should be a quote, social entrepreneurs start with a problem and not a product, is we can be all sad about the negative impacts, because I think technology, everybody at Fairphone thinks technology's ability to do good is massive, but there is also a lot more attention to the negative impacts of our electronics. But rather than seeing this as a way to really start focusing on the negative, what we said is that how can we actually start using this product to start looking at opportunities for change? So that's what we did. Fairphone 1 in 2013, we said, okay, this isn't a solution, but it is a starting point. Let's say our electronics are made with better care for materials, more long-lasting design, good working conditions, reuse and recycling. And we collected a couple of projects that we were part of at the time, being able to trace materials back to the Congo and making sure they were conflict-free certified mines, looking at working conditions in the factory, setting up a worker welfare fund so that factory workers could start speaking with management on how to improve their situation, making repair guides for your phone and making sure that you could buy the spare parts, and also taking back phones from Ghana. And we put this idea online in 2013 and said, okay, what's the missing ingredient? We have the supply, we're going to make this, but is there a market? So that was the next step we took, and that's way back in 2013. We said if we can sell 5,000 Fairphones in 1 month, then we'll go on to produce 25,000, we said. So that's what we did, and it was a miraculous month, and I know some of the people who work with us were the first buyers now, maybe there are some here, but 10,000 people bought the Fairphone in 2013, which made us the proud owners of 3 million euros on our bank account, but no phone to show for it. So that was a very stressful moment because it was like, okay, this idea is great, we're going to do this, but now let's make the phone. So that's been quite a journey from that moment to where we are now, building up a company, making a phone, actually hiring an engineer at the time because we didn't have one. And from that moment, I can say that one of the biggest decisions that we made at the time was, okay, the first phone was from actually a catalog, almost from the factory we were working with, but to really start making impact, we needed to design our own product. So in 2014-15, we designed the Fairphone 2, and the biggest step there was, on the one hand, we could start designing the phone and making the relationship that people have with their products a lot more clear and growing that. And on the other hand, we could design a supply chain. So that's the Fairphone 2. It's here. And you're welcome to come and play with it, but I know that there's other people in the crowd. But the idea was, okay, let's look at these 3 principles. We want phones that last longer. We want people to be able to open them up, and we want people to know what's inside them. So it's modular. It means that you can replace parts. You can see a map of the Congo to know where the materials come from. But besides this user experience, which now we're a year ahead, or let's say a year and a half, where people have been using them, it's also a leader in that sense of trying to create a shift in thinking. So we use this phone as a platform for the industry to also do research. And this is some of the outcomes, is that we did a life cycle assessment of our phone, and we tried to publish all these results as well, which show, for example, that the highest percentage of CO2 emissions in the lifespan of a phone are actually in the production of the product. So you hold on to your phone, whether it's a Fairphone or not, for 1 extra year, that means that you've already saved on more CO2 emissions. So make that phone last. And also that people are interested in being part of the solution, opening up the phones. It says 95% of DIY repairs were actually successful. That means that people ordered a screen online and replaced it themselves. They opened up the camera and replaced it themselves. But the other side of what this has enabled us to do is to really look and work with the industry. Because if you look at what we're doing, we want to inspire the industry, and we obviously need to grow. But if you look at if we sell 100,000 phones, we'll need approximately 100 grams of gold. So to actually make that shift in the industry is going to be pretty hard. So what we're doing is we're trying to work with partners in the industry, and this is a nice example where we've worked with the printed circuit board manufacturer. On the left, you see the printed circuit board, and maybe you didn't know, but you do have gold in your phone, so it's very valuable. And we worked with Fairtrade International to see how we could set up a pilot supply chain for Fairtrade gold. And the idea is, if this works, we can start using it, but AT&S, our printed circuit board manufacturer, can also start scaling it up and using it for their clients. And that would actually mean that 400 kilos of gold gets used every year from Fairtrade sources. So this is another inspiring project. I think we're going back and forth a little bit. So the industry, I think there's another attractive part for us is Fairphone is a product and it's a platform, but it's also a campaign. And I'll get a little bit back to that at the end. As a social entrepreneur, you need to work with the market, but it's also about building an ecosystem and a network of people around you who are willing to help. And that's Fairphone's community. So until now, we've sold 130,000 Fairphones. We sell in Europe mainly, only, actually. But we also have 250,000 community members on all of our social media channels. And one of the nicest things to hear often is that people say, you know, now that I have this phone, I just can't stop talking about, you know, what are the issues behind it? Because every time I put my phone on the table, someone goes, huh? What kind of phone is that? So there's a lot of people who are connected when it comes to conflict minerals or to long-lasting design, or whether it's about recycling, who really use the product itself as a campaigning tool. And that goes for the media as well. For us, yes, it's a matter of setting up a social enterprise, and the enterprise takes up most of our work, as in producing a phone. But it's also about creating an ecosystem or a movement around where we see that electronics is starting to look a little bit more at also the impact of our consumption. And the media has been actually very instrumental in it. We were at the Mobile World Congress in February in Barcelona. And if you look at the list of people who are attending, you will see exactly one company that's focusing on sustainability, and that was us. We were there for the first time, really as part of the industry. But if you look at the media afterwards, you'll see that actually there were hundreds of articles about how electronics can be more sustainable and how we can start looking at that side of our mobile phones. So you can see that there's a lot of developments, but that there's also time to start developing in a different direction. I'd add some Dutch slides because I thought they were here. It's also been very important for us to look at the independent recognition and to build credibility in that area, but it also shows that it's momentum and that we're not there yet. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. It's usually the economy, whether it's the collaborative economy or the participatory economy or the values-based or the circular economy. And I think that what we'd like to get towards is that it just is called the economy again, and that everybody can see that all these fragmentation and all these different approaches come together again and really look at how we can be more values-based. And for that, we've registered as a certified B Corp, which means that you actually see your product or your business as a force for good. So by the time I get to the end of my presentation, I realized that I actually haven't talked about the phone that much. So I know that this is a tech audience, so I wanted to say a little bit about also where we are right now. The phone runs Android, it's dual SIM. We're looking at the next stage at this point on modularity. We've introduced it in end of 2015, and with repairable modules. And the next step that we want to take is looking at upgradable modules. So we're working on the camera at this point to see whether we can work toward an upgrade. And looking at concepting also the next phone. So the Netherlands is actually maybe number 4 in terms of markets, which is impressive. Germany is a very big market for us. Maybe I'd like to end with the fact that I wasn't here at the beginning, but scaling up a social enterprise is the next challenge that we have. It's been very important for us to get where we are right now. And the next step for us is to really see how we can grow, because for us to actually start creating more impact and leverage in the industry, we need to scale up. But it's very positive to see that we've already also started working a lot with industry partners and seeing how they can use Fairphone really as a way to look at how we can make our electronics fairer. So that's how I'd like to go back to my last slide and leave it there. And please come and take a look at the phone, sorry, if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Tessa.